Jude Chiy, founder of Flamingo. So, Jude, why don't you tell me about Flamingo and who you are?
Yeah, so Flamingo is a resident engagement platform. We basically provide a platform for apartment buildings that includes a white labeled app that residents can use for everything from rent payment to booking a house cleaner.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about why you started working on this and how long you've been working on it.
Yeah, so I've been working on this for about 4 years. It's changed a lot from the initial vision. When we first started, it was focused on wellness. So looking at bringing wellness where people live, work, and play. My passion for wellness came from my background in healthcare. So always wanted to become a doctor. But in college, realized that I could have a bigger impact on more the prevention side of healthcare.
Awesome.
So decided to start this company to make it much easier for people to get healthy. So when I started, the goal was bringing wellness where people live, work, and play. So apartment buildings were part of our target market.
Great.
But after being exposed to that market and realizing that there's a lot more opportunity for what we could do, we decided to become a full engagement platform. So not just fitness, but making life easier for residents from all parts of what they need.
Wow.
For example, if you don't have to spend a lot of time cleaning your apartment, it means you have more time to go actually work out. So we decided like a full engagement platform is the best approach to actually impacting wellness.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So moving from doctor to startup founder is kind of a big jump.
Yeah.
What's been the most surprising thing about being a founder and running your own startup?
The most surprising thing, which I think it shouldn't really be a surprise, is just how all-consuming it is. So you go in knowing that starting a company is a lot of work, but it's hard to account for how all-consuming it is. Like at 11 a.m. or 11 p.m., you're thinking work, 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 work. It doesn't matter what time of the day.
Yeah.
So that to me was actually a surprise.
How do you work through that? Like, are there things that you do to get away from it and to kind of give yourself a break?
Yeah, so what is actually nice about being a founder of a company is that you have a lot of different parts of the company. So at one time you focus on sales, another part you focus on actual operations, another part is focused on something completely different.
Yeah.
So while you are doing a lot, you're doing a lot of different things where it doesn't feel as bad. And for me, part of that is just balancing everything while still trying to do all the things that I do that I enjoy, like running, biking, swimming, and the regular things.
Awesome. Yeah. What for you has been the hardest part about this journey?
I'll say the hardest part has been trying to figure out what direction to take. You know where you want to take the company, but there are always so many different things you could do that you have to be like, no, that's important, but it's not as immediate or as important as this. So that's always like the challenge is there are a lot of things you could do, a lot of directions you could take the company, a lot of things you could focus on, but you just have to kind of pick and choose. And that becomes really challenging because you have a lot of great ideas, a lot of things that you want to implement, but you really have to pick and choose, like really specifically.
Yeah. Are there people that have been very instrumental in your journey that maybe have helped you with that, picking the priorities or have gotten you this far?
Yeah, absolutely. So luckily our customers are pretty vocal.
Okay.
And we are pretty proactive with getting feedback from them.
Yeah.
And that has made it like much easier where you're like, what's actually going to benefit you? Is it this feature or this feature or this feature? And a lot of people are very like vocal with what they like. So you immediately like, no, okay, I really think that's cool, but from the customer side of things, this is way more important and way more impactful.
So you're staying very close to your customer. Are they all here in Chicago, or how do you stay connected to them if they're distributed?
Yeah, so we have customers all over the U.S., so from D.C. to San Fran. So part of what we do is we do regular quarterly check-ins with each of our customers. And then because we have a couple of sets of customers, we have the property managers, and then we have the residents in the building,
Yeah.
and then we have our providers. So for each of those sets, we have regular check-ins. For the residents, it's a check-in after every event or after every action they take. So if they attend a fitness class or if they book a house cleaner, they get a survey so we know how things are going.
Amazing.
For the property managers, we do quarterly check-ins, whether that's a survey or that's just calling them. And then we send out regular emails just to make sure that things are going well. Usually we say, what things should we keep doing, what things should we stop doing, and what things should we start doing. So that really helps us get really honest and great feedback.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great that you're continuing to hear from them. Is there, what could you point at maybe as your proudest achievement so far, especially since you've been so close to the customer? Is there something that you really point to, like, I'm really proud that we've done this?
I think one of the proudest moments for us was deciding that it made more sense to focus on our customer's brand versus our brand. So one of the things that we provide to our customers is a white labeled app. So the app itself is completely white labeled. From our perspective, it's not that good because it doesn't really promote our brand.
Right.
But from the customer side, it's a great thing because they get to stand out essentially. And that's why the name of the company is Flamingo. We help them stand out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. So shifting gears a little bit, I've mentioned Chicago a couple times.
Yeah.
You are based here and building your company here. How has it been running a startup here versus somewhere else, like a Silicon Valley or anywhere else? Like, what are the advantages or disadvantages for being in Chicago?
Yeah. So it's hard to kind of say what the disadvantage would be because I haven't had a chance to actually build a company in those different places.
Sure.
So I can speak more on Chicago. So far, it's been a great city to be based out of. One of it is like geography. It's really easy to go to different cities from Chicago. So to get to the Bay Area or to get to the East Coast, everything's like less than a 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
And that makes it really easy because our customers are pretty spread out. So to go do those visits, it's much easier travel-wise.
Okay.
And then Chicago itself is just a really great city. It's the third largest city in the US, but it's really affordable. So you have all the different neighborhoods, but everything is so pretty close to the downtown area. So it makes the city itself really, really affordable, as opposed to a Bay Area where it's a challenge to live there for anyone. So that makes Chicago just great in all those aspects.
Yeah.
But obviously, compared to the Bay Area, you don't have as many people in the tech scene, meaning like the whole ecosystem isn't as developed as you might have in New York or the Bay Area.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you done with that then? Do you have a group that you turn to here, or how do you find solidarity when this can be a lonely journey?
Yeah. So while Chicago is not as developed as the Bay Area, there's still a pretty nice ecosystem. So you have 1871, you have Mather, you have a few different universities that do different programs around entrepreneurship. So that still provides you with a pretty decent ecosystem to turn to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're like anything else, if you're proactive, you are going to find your people.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so where do you want to take the company? Like, where do you see yourself in a year or, really far down the line, 20 years from now?
It's hard to say 20 years from now. But for us, a year from now is continuing to really develop our product to make it even better for our customers. Like I was saying, there are a lot of features that you want to add, but you don't necessarily have the time or priority to.
Sure.
So we have a lot of those things to add. So really make it a lot more customer friendly, and then just continue to grow our customer base.
Awesome.
20 years from now, we have thought about 20 years from now.
Okay.
So one thing that we see in the apartment industry is that the data in the industry is really important. But right now, it's not really well developed. So one of my predictions is that 20 years from now, the data is actually going to be more important than the monthly rent that the property managers are charging.
Okay.
Because in a building, residents are doing so many different things. Being able to capture that and understand how that impacts what development looks like, what the things you provide in the apartment looks like, that's really tremendous. Everything from, do we actually need a fitness center? Or should we focus on having a pool? Or should we have this? Because right now, all the buildings have an amazing amount of amenities. But they don't really know which of those are more important to a resident.
Interesting.
So being able to really capture that data is something that we are starting to build into our platform.
Awesome. So you have planned for the 20-year future.
Yes. Trying to.
So also along this journey, you tend to get many people throwing advice at you. You get it everywhere. I'm wondering from your perspective, what's the best advice you've received and what's the worst advice you've received?
I'll say the best advice I've had is just be really close to your customers. And that came from the old company I used to work for, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. One of the most amazing parts of the company is just how much time they spend on customer development. So really understanding everything about a cancer patient What do they care about? What are all the things that impact their life, not just the cancer? Just for example, one of the things that really blew my mind when I first started working there was how much time they spent to decide what carpeting to use at one of the hospitals.
Oh, wow.
Something that's small, they spend a lot of time on to know how is this going to impact patients. Is this something that actually makes a difference to them? So I learned a lot from that, just knowing that you have to constantly pay attention and get feedback from your customers. In terms of worst advice, I don't think I've really gotten any bad advice. It's like anything else. Everything has some nuggets, the things that you learn to ignore, but mostly it's figuring out like what is going to help and what's not, and then kind of just trying things out.
Awesome. Awesome. The journey for a founder can be challenging, and it's sometimes more challenging for underrepresented founders. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what advantages have you found from being an underrepresented founder?
So I think one of the big advantages, it's like anything else, you stand out. So I say stand out a lot because that's really our company brand, is how do you stand out. So being an underrepresented founder, you always stand out. So if it's presented to an investor, if it's talking to a customer, you always stand out because it's something that they haven't really seen a lot before. So I actually use that to my advantage because it gives you that opportunity to leave them with this impression like, oh, wow, that's not something I might not have expected. So you end up just like standing out more in their mind.
Yeah, awesome. So what advice would you give somebody who's in your shoes, underrepresented or not, that's thinking about starting up a company or early in their journey?
So one thing I always say is go in knowing that it is like a lot of work. So you do have to spend a lot of time on a lot of things that you might not necessarily enjoy. But if you're doing something you truly believe in, it really helps. So it makes things like much easier. And then the other thing is just really pay attention to your customers. Like, this is a cliche advice, but at the end of the day, that's actually what matters. Is this something your customers are going to use or care about?
Right.
Because if it's not, then you're pretty much just lying to yourself.
So final question. If I had a genie in a bottle for you today, what would you wish for?
Infinite customers. No, but in seriousness, I think for Chicago, it is definitely having like a more connected tech ecosystem. So just like making it easier, I think, which is what you guys are already doing, making it easier to find investors, making it easier for investors to know this company exists. So I think that process still isn't as optimized as it needs to be.
Great. Well, I like that wish, and thank you all for joining today. Again, this is Jude from Flamingo.